We're
I
in.
wasn't
All right.
100% sure where it
I'd
was.
like to call the meeting to order if I could, please. Would you do roll, Megan?
Schweigert.
Here.
Joel.
Here.
Barth.
Here.
White.
Here.
Hinderman here. Bowden.
Here.
Andrews.
Here.
All present.
Proof of giving public meeting notice, Aaron.
Yep, notices were posted at both schools, sent to the Village of Dickeyville and the Cuba City City Hall, and members of the media on Monday, May 12th.
Thank you. The third item is annual board reorganization. And item A, I'm going to make a motion to appoint Megan to serve as the Board of Education President for the reorganization. Is there a second?
I will second.
Serve as the temporary clerk.
There you go.
Not president.
I didn't get that one in there.
All right. First, we will hear any motions for nominations for president, which is currently held by Gary Andrews.
I would move to appoint Gary Andrews as president.
I will second. Schweigert.
Yes.
Joel.
I just have a question before I say.
Oh yes.
Is there an option if people have other
Other nominations.
nominations? I mean, I think you need to ask that question first
Yes.
before you just move
Move
on
into it.
to the next one.
My
Just
apologies.
Sure.
just to be fair.
Oh, that's.
I will
that's a good
entertain
way to
other
handle it.
nominations. My apologies. Hearing no other nominations, is there a motion?
I would move to nominate Gary Andrews to serve as Cuba City School Board president.
I will second. All right, Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews,
Abstain.
abstain. Motion carried. All right, are there any nominations for vice president of the school board?
I would move to nominate Dan Bowden.
Are there any other nominations at this time? Hearing none, could I please have a motion to appoint Dan Bowden as vice president?
I will so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Bowden, abstain, Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried. Is there any nominations for the position of treasurer? This was held by Chuck Pohl, so it is vacant at this time.
And I'd also like to add a comment that whoever that is probably needs to be on the finance committee. So we may have to do a little shuffling of the committees to accommodate that, so just a thought. Anybody that's interested in serving as treasurer?
What are the duties for that? Or what?
It's not a lot.
Not a lot? I'll give it a try.
Okay. And you're on the budget and finance?
Yeah.
Yes.
Already, yeah. Okay.
That would work perfect then.
I would move to appoint Joe Schweigert for,
Just to be sure, there are no other nominations at this time, just to
well, I'm just making the
give
first
it,
motion.
give it the space, okay.
I would move to appoint Joe Schweigert as treasurer of the school board.
I'll second that.
Now you can call for any other nominations.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, is there a motion to appoint Joe Schweigert to serve as Cuba City's Board of Education Treasurer?
If so moved.
Second.
All right. Joe abstained. Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried. Are there any nominations for clerk?
Currently held by Megan.
Just doing her best today, apparently.
I will nominate nominate Megan if she will accept.
Are there any other
I will second.
nominations? Alright. Hearing no other nominations, can I just have a motion?
I'll move to nominate Megan as the Cuba City Board of Education clerk.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Alright, Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman abstain, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried. That moves us to appointing a member to the CISA board, who will also serve as the CISA 3 convention representative. This is currently held by Gary. I don't know if there's interest in serving again or if there are other nominations.
I will accept if no one else wants it, but if somebody else wants it, more power to you. So speak up.
For newer board members, this is traditionally one that's more like volunteer than nominated. Gary, if you'll take it, I will move to appoint Gary Andrews to serve on the CISA 3 board. If there is an opening for the 25-26 school year.
There is.
I would second.
Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
and Andrews
Abstain.
abstain, motion carried. Now we are looking for an appointment for the Wisconsin Association of School Boards Convention Representative. This has been held by Dan Bowden in the past. If there's anybody interested in taking on that position.
Again, I certainly wouldn't be offended if somebody else wants to do it.
Main role there is
Is you go to
signing of papers
convention.
and you go to the convention, which is usually the third week in January in Milwaukee.
And you serve on go to the delegate convention and where they present all sorts of motions and things for changes. I will nominate Dan to serve as the WASB convention representative.
Are there any other nominations? Otherwise, Gary, can I take that as your motion?
Yes.
I will second. Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Bowden abstain, Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried. Alright, I will entertain a motion to set the time of our regular board meetings. By board policy, the board meets the third Wednesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. unless we take action to the contrary.
Is there any desire to change that board?
Is there any way to move it up earlier, or is it too much of a conflict with work schedules if it was at 6?
I'd be all for 6.
6,
I'm okay.
I
Six.
I couldn't go earlier most nights, but 6.
I'm okay with 6, yep.
All right,
Would
do
you
you want to make a
consider-
motion to that effect?
Oh boy, where's the whole, I need to make a motion.
Here.
We gotta, oh, there it is, I put my thing on. Set the time, I would, wait, where am I at? Okay, move to set the regular meetings on the third Wednesday of each month, beginning at 6 p.m.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried. Designate official depositories. The policies have been adopted to designate all 4 banks in the district. This allows for flexibility when dealing with whichever bank provides the best proposals. Is there a motion?
Is there any desire to change that motion? This has been in place for a number of years.
I'll move to designate Mound City Bank of Cuba City, Midwest One Bank of Cuba City, Royal Bank of Dickeyville, and People's State Bank of Dickeyville as official depositories of the school district of Cuba City. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried. Designate official newspaper. This is required so citizens can know where to look for official notices, and in the past, this has been Tri-County Press. Is there a motion or any questions?
I would move to designate the Tri-County Press as the official newspaper of the school district of Cuba City.
I'll second.
Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Righty, we're to committee membership, and bear with me here a minute, we're gonna go down them, I guess, one at a time here. Building and Grounds is Julie, Joe, and myself. And that's okay, folks?
And Joe.
Yep, I think I said Julie, Joe,
Oh.
and myself.
I thought you said Julie Joel.
Oh, okay. I can understand why you thought that.
I've gotten that before.
So that's okay? All right. Then Budget and Finance, I did have a request from Angie to join that. So that at this point, Joe needs to stay on. So between Dan and Megan, probably at least have potentially 3 people for the committees that probably meet the most often, would at least allow hopefully 2 to be in attendance when you have a meeting in case one can't make it.
I would be fine stepping down if Angie wants that position.
Okay, could we trade places, cause she was on
I'd rather.
transportation, right?
Yep.
I would take transportation if that would work.
That'd be great. Thanks,
Could we,
Dan.
okay, we're gonna switch Angie and Dan, Angie on the, budget and finance, and Dan to transportation. Okay, the foundation, is Dan and Joe, that's okay?
Fine with me.
Personnel is Dan, Sarah, and myself. Policy, Megan, Angie, and Julie. And technology, transportation, and vocation is Sarah, Dan, and myself. And I'm the CISA rep, and Dan is the WASB rep. Is that acceptable, board? Okay. All right, thank you.
With foundation, that's not one where we would need 3 people?
Nope. That's what it's
It
always
meets
had
so
to.
rarely.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, they just meet twice.
Okay, so there is a motion there if somebody would make that, if those committees are acceptable.
I can make a motion. I move to approve the Cuba City Board of Education committee assignments as presented.
Is there a second?
I will second. Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Then, item 4 is the consideration of the consent agenda. Are there any items A through E that the board would like, hold for further discussion?
I just had a question on C. When I was reading through our district students going out, I noticed one student was listed at 3 different
Yeah.
locations.
So when you apply, you get to apply to up to 3 different places. That doesn't
Okay.
mean that they have to go, but they have the option to go to any 3 of those, so you'll see that a few times.
Okay.
Good question though.
Any other questions? Hearing none, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Then on to admin reports. We'll start with elementary, and Jason, please.
All right. If my memory serves right, we moved this meeting up a week, and it's amazing that so much stuff can happen in less than a month. If you've heard that the last month of school is extremely chaotic at times, you've heard correctly. A lot of things going on. On April 23rd, Chief Lovell and Sergeant Ryan visited the 5K classrooms to conduct annual fingerprinting of our 5K students. This is a free service provided to our 5K families each year. Fingerprint cards are sent home to families for records and safekeeping. No information is kept by the police department. This is simply a safety service provided for our 5K families. Also on the 23rd of April, CCES students and staff had the privilege of performances by the Platteville Children's Choir, which featured our own students, Henry Brewer, Lily Brandt, Brinley Ackerman, Phoebe Brewer, and Claire Yoshis. They did a fabulous job. Despite a lot of obstacles for field trips this year, we had many successful ones, and we're very thankful to large portions of our community that ensured that those happened. I don't know if everybody's in the same boat, but spring field trips were probably some of my fondest memories of grade school. They were an exciting time and lots of great memories occurred. Our 5K classes visited the Havens Petting Farm. That was sponsored by Schweigert Family Farms. First and second grades visited the Inclusive Playground in Platteville with transportation sponsored by the class families and local businesses. Our third grade visited Swiss Valley Nature Center. Their transportation was funded by a grant from the Friends of Dubuque Conservation Board and Lane Custom Shopping. Fourth grade attended Day at the Dairy, which was sponsored by the Lafayette County Dairy Association, including their transportation. And fifth grade traveled to Blackhawk Memorial Park for the Earth Day celebration and outdoor events specifically organized for area fifth grade students. That was funded by a generous family donation offered on the night of the fifth grade Living Wax Museum. So some wonderful support with that, and we're very grateful to those individuals and groups that donated to all of our classes. Also, through the last month, there were many recognition events that we celebrated. Miss in our building, Miss Jessie Dinar and Miss Jessica Lilker on Administrative Assistant Day. Mrs. Joyce Dinar, Mrs. Kelly Banfield, Mrs. Holly Shireman, Mr. John Baker, and Mr. Kevin Cole on Lunch Hero Day. We celebrated our UW-Platteville graduates and student teachers, Miss Brittany Ziegler, Miss Mackenzie Woman, and Miss Elizabeth Andrews. We wish them the best of experiences as they pursue their personal educational careers and are proud to say that they have their roots here at CCES. My own bucket was filled with the recognition given from students and staff on National Principal Appreciation Day. Our PTO stepped up once again and led the way to show our teachers all the gratitude we have for them during Teacher Appreciation Week, a week early in our building, April 28th through May 2nd, knowing that our last week of school would be extremely busy. And just to cap that off, words, days, even weeks worth of recognition cannot match the value of the people that we've celebrated in the past month and over the year through different recognitions. We hope that all those that provide that time and service for us, they recognize the gratitude that we have and they feel that appreciation every day. On the final Friday of the year, students were treated to fun activities, summer gift bags, and popcorn during a movie sponsored by the Cuba City PTO. A huge thank you to the members of the PTO for organizing and overseeing the activities, which provided staff time to attend to the end of the year tasks and classroom transitions for the summer. On May 8th, Ms. Gail Pitson hosted the Country Care 4K Family Lunch at Keepers Park in Dickeyville. It was a beautiful day that all students and families enjoyed. Thank you to Ms. Joyce Dinar, Ms. Kelly Banfield, and Ms. Holly Shireman for preparing the picnic lunch that day. And then also our end of the year picnic was a success with over 170 family members joining us for lunch. I want to thank the food service staff again for serving a majority of those family members along with 140 student meals that day. So very, very busy. I gave you guys the brief version.
Well, thank you for your great leadership and passion this past school year. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Any questions of Jason? Alrighty, Chris, you're up.
All right, so I've got a lot as well. On May 2nd, we bid farewell to the class of 2025. Graduation ceremony was well attended and went very smoothly. With AP tests and sports season still going, we still see a lot of those familiar faces, but we will miss them as they move on to the next chapters of their lives. With finals finished up, Ms. Lawson assured me that we have all of our sophomores trained in CPR. This is the final that she gives for health class. We have trained every sophomore class since 2017, somewhere around 600 kids. FCCLA had their spring celebration today at Winter Park to close out their year. They recently held elections to place officers for the 25-26 school year. FFA competed in 2 days of State Career Development Events, or CDEs. The results included Ag Communications team consisting of members Isabel Welp, Isabel Denar, Natalie Kruger, and Emily Wigman. They took third place. Isabel Welp took second high individual. The Ag Sales team consisting of Will Dressler, Xavier Torres, Lucas Toma, Ethan Carius placed 15th. Media Evaluation team consisting of Michael Terpstra, Clayton Doherty, Jonas Teasdale, and Andy Atten placed 8th. Michael placed 15th and Clayton placed 20 as individuals. Katie Wackershauser participated in the Dairy Handler event and was ranked 10th in the state. The Forestry team consisting of Lucas Toma, Chloe LaRue, Dia Christ, and Ethan Curious placed 14th. So congratulations to all of our students and Miss Van Scandal on a successful year. Congratulations also goes out to Cuba City FFA alumni Morgan Van Scandal as she earned the American Farmer degree. Ms. Van Scandal stated this is the first student that she has taught who has earned this prestigious award. And to note, this is the highest degree that the FFA can bestow on any one of their members. And no, I don't have mine. Middle school has been busy with the end of the year. Ms. Rollins accompanied several students to the state level of the National History Day competition. Participants included Adelaide Johns, Cassidy Shepard in group exhibit, Ava Digman in individual documentary, Kennedy Pickle and Reagan White in group documentary, Anna Egan and Macy Mockler in group documentary, Carter and Kennedy Clendenin in group website. Congratulations to all. 6th grade class would like to thank the PTO for helping make sure that they were able to take a trip to Cave of the Mound, and the PTO also arranged to help the 8th grade trip with to going to Urban Air in Madison. Speaking of 8th grade, they just finished another successful career day. Thank you to Ms. Updike Ames and all of our middle school teachers for helping our students prepare for that day. Thank you to Mr. Clayton, Ms. Clayton, and Ms. Bodie for organizing 2 wonderful nights of fine art shows. There was a visual arts display here in the library and music in the gym. And then finally, thank you to our admin team for the first of many great years. Thank you to the school board for all of your support with our school. Thank you to Ashley and Julie for keeping the office at the middle and high school running smoothly, even with all the additional tasks. And then finally, thank you to all of our absolutely amazing staff for making our school the greatest place on earth.
Thank you, Chris, and again, as Jason, we certainly appreciate all your hard work, time, and dedication. It seems like this is truly your second home here, so.
Thank you.
Any questions of Chris? Whitney, special ed, please.
Yes, a huge thank you to Jessie Denar, who has helped me navigate through the May 9th snapshot. The snapshot deadline was not ideal as it was the last day of school, but we worked together and got everything submitted, fixed, and validated. So we will get ready for the one next year. So congratulations to Joe Blodgett on his retirement. Thank you for all of your dedication and hard work in supporting students at Cuba City Middle and High School. We wish you all the best in this next chapter. Thank you to Jessie, Jessica, Ashley, and Julie for all of your hard work to make our schools run smoothly. Your organization, professionalism, and attention to detail to keep everything running smoothly, often behind the scenes. I want you each to know that it never goes unnoticed, whether it's managing schedules, handling last-minute changes with grace, or being calm in the middle of a storm. Your work is essential. You make things easier for everyone around you, and you do it with such kindness and compassion. You are the glue that holds the team together, and we are incredibly lucky to have each of you. Teacher Appreciation Week. The PTO helped celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week a week early, just like Mr. Holzmer said, because we know how crazy the last week of school can be. We organized a snack daily to ensure staff's hearts and bellies were full. Muffins and fruit, popcorn, cookies, trail mix, and refreshments were provided throughout the week. We organized this week off of the theme of books. So teachers are like books. They can change you forever. So there were a couple flyers we sent out. We also sent out a parent flyer so parents could participate in presenting things for their teachers throughout the week as well, so that was fun. Throughout the week, staff members were also able to participate in bingo. This was something the PTO added new this year, so 7 numbers were sent out daily for staff to mark off their bingo cards. We had a lot of staff play, and that was district-wide, so that was really fun to see as well. As the school year comes to an end, I want to say thank you to everyone within the Cuba City School District and community for your continued support as I navigated through my first year as in this position. It's been an amazing learning experience, and it would not have been successful without the guidance and support from everyone. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Whitney, and it was great to have you for this first year, and you know, kind of like everything seemed to go smoothly. I never heard any complaints, so you must be doing an awesome job. So,
Well, thank you.
any questions of Whitney?
I just want to say thank you to you three and thank you to all the staff in a really challenging year with the referendum and so many different barriers. There has been amazing successes that still have happened, and I really feel the students, although there was a lot of challenges, really have not felt that. So really kudos to all of you guys for rising above a very difficult year and making it still a great year for all of our students. So thank you.
Thank you. And Heather, business report, please.
Sure. After the meeting's over with, Megan, Joe, and Gary, I do need you to sign this paper because I need to update signatures on our payroll and expense check. So help me not to forget to get that from you. Just an update on the current fiscal year. At the end of April, we were 84% through our year, and we had spent about 57% of our budget. This is about 5%, a little less than 5% than last year. Keep in mind that we have summer payrolls, so our teachers do get paid over the summer. So while you might think, oh, 57%, like we're gonna end the year in a really good spot, we still may. But we have lots of summer payrolls coming up, so we'll eventually get caught up where we should be. An update on Fund 49, or our referendum account. As you can imagine, there's not a lot of activity in the month of April in this account, but that will soon be changing. As you walked in our building and noticed in our halls, there's lots of activity going on. But in the month of April, our only revenue was just interest, which was $13.88. And our balance at the end of the month was $5,622.98. During the month of February, the school district underwent a DPI food service audit. We have these audits every 5 years. I did include in the consent agenda, there was 2 documents that came from DPI. There was a closure letter and the administrative report. There were not any fiscal action that needed to be taken. And as of April 21st, all corrective action had been reviewed and approved by DPI. I just want to say a huge congratulations to Janet Leppeholtz, our food service director. This audit was successful because of Janet's attention to detail, her commitment to high standards, and her knowledge of state and federal requirements. We actually have gotten phone calls from other school districts who want to hire Janet out because DPI has told other school districts in the area, oh, you should talk to Janet in Cuba City because she knows what she's doing. So people have asked if we could sub her out. And if you look at the number of findings that we had and compare us to other districts in even CISA 3, we are significantly lower than other school districts. So just a huge thank you and congratulations to Janet and her team. I've reviewed all the teachers' budgets and they have been passed on to the principals and the special ed directors, and as of about an hour or 2 ago, the 3 sitting next to me, they have their review done as well. So then I can move forward and start entering all of that data into our financial system for next year. And then I'm just continuing to work on the 25-26 budget, and then I did spend quite a bit of time putting together some documents that are going to be reviewed later tonight at the meeting.
Thank you, Heather. Any questions of her?
I have one, I don't think it's for you, Heather, probably more for Jason. Are we doing summer school again this year? I mean, it's still gonna be operated and with all the construction and things going on? Fabulous, okay.
it's being held in the elementary building?
In the elementary,
Building.
June 9th is the start.
Oh, so I figured it
July
would be coming
9th to
pretty
July
soon, I
10th.
would've thought,
So it's
so.
5 weeks, 4 days.
And thank you, Heather, for all of your work, especially with all of the referendum attempts this past year and your countless hours of trying to make 1 + 1 = 3, so thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Aaron, Superintendent?
Yep, some exciting news to start. On April 7th, just days after the referendum passed, the district received notice from the city of Cuba City that we would be receiving a one-time payout from a TID district number 2 in the city of Cuba City. This TID was originally supposed to close at a break-even position, but because they extended it a little bit longer, it generated a surplus. So as required by statute, those excess funds that were collected are distributed to overlying tax entities, and the school is one of them. So later tonight, we'll talk about our suggestion on how we can use that TID payout and recognize our staff. Building project timeline. Our building project is finally underway. We'll be using these doors now for the remainder of the summer when we have meetings, so we'll make sure that's posted. But if you did venture up to the hallway up there, you'll see it looks very different. All the lockers are out. The flooring is going to come out next week, and then those 2 bathrooms up there are going to go through a heavy renovation. In addition to that, the parking lot down here is going to be worked on. That begins Monday, and they have to level that out. So they assume that's going to be about a 2-month process. They're going to level kind of one section at a time. So the south entrances that we usually use all summer are not going to be the normal entrance. In fact, the normal entrances are going to be, if you went out those doors and looked to your right, in between here and the cafeteria, there's a set of doors, and that's where most people will be coming in during the day. So that's all a little different. But that's where the students will go. We'll try to make sure that we keep people up to date with that as well. And then our summer school begins on June 9th, ends on July 10th. Some high school courses will begin or end early. We've got band and ag and weightlifting that kind of start early and end late, but everything else will go those 5 weeks, and it's Monday through Thursday, except for Thursday, July 4th, I believe. That's all I have.
And I would add the building project meeting that I went to with Aaron and Chris and Heather. I can't remember exactly who was there, but the classrooms in that north wing, they're all getting new flooring, furniture. A lot of them are getting new doors. The hallway is going to be totally redone. New lighting, etc. So you probably won't recognize it when it's all done. So it's, way overdue. And plus, they talked about putting a sidewalk, I don't know, out here, possibly, because the parking lot on the south end is going to be tore up, probably for, all of the fall, and probably almost all of next year, with this being the main entry. They were talking about possibly putting a sidewalk to run along the east side of the building from the south parking lot to up here. But there'll be street parking, and or whatever you can get from the far south end of the parking lot. But they're going to fence it off next week when they start to bulldoze. So,
As soon as there starts to be a drop, they might take off the top layer, and that may not be fenced yet, but as soon as there starts to be some drops, that's when they said they're going to put the fence in, and we're looking at some signage there so people know where they should go and what's coming up next.
and we asked that they put up a sign, kind of like you see with somebody building something along the road, that coming soon, and some renditions of the building project. So hopefully that we're excited that that's moving forward. So thank you,
Will
Eric.
this main area be open at the start of the school year up here?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
and security and just
Yep.
all that, that'll all be taken care
Yeah,
of.
that'll all be done.
Perfect.
We're hoping that that's done before in-service week.
Okay.
But yes, they know our start date.
Okay.
It has to be done.
That's good.
Okay. Alrighty, and then we're to discussion on district branding options. For those on the board, we talked about this a year ago, maybe A year and a
Like a
half?
two.
2?
Yeah.
Before I was on the board, so I'd probably on
Yeah.
board too, I would say.
It's so, this is one of the items that our architect is really kind of waiting for us to make a decision on, so that they can put whatever we decide into the branding, their logos or whatever that go on the school, if I said
Yeah,
it correctly.
we have some placeholders in different places that they want to do some things, and they're just kind of waiting for us here. So this was something brought up by the board to look into whether we keep the name Cubans and whether we look at a mascot, possibly logo, something like that. So the board had asked me to get some feedback. So we got a little over 300 surveys back, and that's from staff, students, and parents. Just as a frame of reference, in 2022 for our referendum, when we sent out 2,500 surveys, we got back about 500. So, about 60% of that, so a pretty good turnout. And the things we were looking at for staff feedback, we got 41 responses. About 61% viewed Cuban positively. 76% supported creating a mascot. Staff valued tradition, but are open to a mascot that symbolizes strength, pride, resilience. I asked for some ideas. There were a lot, but those are kind of some common ones, just things we started with C's. Student feedback had about 160 from grades 6-12. 70 to 75% felt positively about the Cuban's nickname. 80 to 85% of students supported creating a mascot that represented toughness, pride, and school spirit. Again, some ideas there, a lot that started with C's or that had yellow and black tie-in. And then parent feedback, about 110. 70 to 75% of them felt positively about the Cuban's nickname. 65 to 7 supported creating a mascot. And parents value tradition, but see a mascot as a way to enhance school spirit. And they had some ideas there as well, very similar. The key takeaways from this across all groups, this is staff, students, and parents, there's strong pride in the Cuban's nickname. There was wide support for developing a mascot that would strengthen school spirit, modernize our branding while still honoring the district's tradition and community identity. So based on that, I think there's about 4 different basic routes that we can go because we were looking at those things. So number 1, keep the nickname mascot or the nickname Cubans and stay as is with no mascot. That is an option. We can just keep our nickname and not develop anything new. We've got some advantages and disadvantages of this. The advantages protects tradition by keeping the name. Cost savings, if we did change from the Cubans to the Hornets or whatever that would happen to be, there's a lot of branding that would have to go in with uniforms and different things like that. Minimize controversy, avoids backlash from those concerned that changing anything would dishonor alumni. We heard that a lot, like, hey, this is my school, and I am a Cuban because I went to Cuba City, and if you take that away, I'm gonna feel a little disconnected, and that's what happens a lot when you see colleges rebranding. Their alumni feel that way as well. Disadvantage of this is a missed opportunity for spirit and growth. Lingering confusion. Some people, we all hear this. What's a Cuban? So that's one. Long-term relevant risk. Failure to modernize could make future change even harder if needed. So those were some things that we came up with for advantages and disadvantages. Option 2, we could keep the nickname Cubans, but add a mascot. Advantages is the best of both worlds in that it honors tradition and energizes current students, future generations. It boosts the school spirits by having a mascot, and we've talked about some of the things it would do for clothing and having a physical mascot at games and things like that. Flexible branding, right now is the time to make those changes because we are going to be spending some money on branding around the school with the new building. Disadvantages, cost, depending on what it is. Do we have to get new uniforms? Do we have to repaint different things? Identity challenge, this is the big one. If we were going to keep Cubans and develop a mascot, what's the identity of that mascot? What is that going to be? Because we're not going to get 85% of people in our community to say, yeah, we want that as a mascot. So the identity challenge of that term. Mixed reactions, and a minority of stakeholders are skeptical about adding anything new right now. Some of the responses were I think you guys have other things that are more pressing than this, and they're not wrong, but this is something that we wanted to look into. Route 3, change both the nickname and adopt a new mascot if we want to do that and just start over with different names and choose a new identity. That would be easier to tie into a mascot. Disadvantages of this, major backlash risk here. Cost and complexity would be one, and emotional disconnect of our alumni, which you saw the results of people who favored that term, or that nickname, Cubans. And then Route 4, maintain the nickname Cubans and create a mascot later. This would be a soft approach. It's a gradual transition. It's more difficult for us to do that now probably, just because now's the time where we're gonna incorporate some of these things in the building projects. But it would allow for some flexibility as far as budgeting if we had new uniforms or things like that. Disadvantages, it loses the momentum of the new building. Frustration for students, you saw that it was about 80% of students wanted a mascot, and then an unclear messaging, people still would say, well, what's a Cuban? So those are the 4 options that I came up with. You guys might come up with option 5, but what I need from the board today during this discussion is for you guys to say, okay, Aaron, go forward with this. So I'm gonna open it up now for you guys to have some discussion amongst yourself or ask questions. And this came from executive summary. You guys all have access to each of those 3, the kind of the drilled down data too. And if you table it and say, okay, we'll have it for another month, okay, that's an option too. But those are the four routes that I think make sense that we look at and move forward with.
Isn't there, though, a deadline? We need a decision for the architect for the building project by?
They would like us to have it sooner than later. You guys are the board though, so you're gonna, at our meetings, they try to pressure us into getting it done sooner. I'm not going to pass that on to you guys. You're the board. You get to determine when this gets done, and you want to do it right. You wouldn't want to rush into a decision and make a wrong one. So yes, they want it as soon as we can, but remember, you're the board.
I personally, I think it's probably speaks volumes there that there's such a level of, connection to Cubans, right? I mean, being a graduate of Cuba City, you're a Cuban. That's what you've always referenced yourself as. So I think that's to me stands out from basically in all the information. That sounds like that's one thing that's pretty consistent, is that people like the identity, they like the connection, they like the fact that this is who we are. And so I mean, for me, I think we stay with Cubans. That's just my thoughts. My other thoughts is that it's really great that if our student population is really advocating for a mascot, it would be super nice to let them have a voice in that and be a part of that, to kind of recognize that. And I understand that. You go to games and a lot of the schools, not all, but they'll have their mascots out there, and I think that there is something to be said about that as well. But there are schools that don't as well. So that's just my 2 cents.
So those would be options 1 or past 1 or 2, because that keeps Cuban, is what you're saying. Okay.
I agree with you, Angie, on keeping the Cuban name and colors and everything like that. I think a mascot would be interesting to do, but I think it had to be careful on what we choose. I think it'd be kind of confusing for the Cuba City Cubans, and we have like a panther or something, a honeybee walking around or whatever. But like maybe kind of like what Platteville does with like Pioneer Pete, is they just kind of have a person or whatever. Maybe something like that could be an option. But I'm a fan of keeping the name and exploring what a mascot could look like.
I agree with that, like keeping the Cubans and not giving it another name and mascot, but what is a Cuban? Like, if a Cuban is a person, it's still a Cuban. It's not an animal or anything else. It's just like we're saying this is what our person or whatever looks like, but that's a Cuban.
Maybe having the students come up with the answer to that as a way for, like Angie had mentioned, to get their involvement.
So if we did something like Joe said for the Pioneer Pete, we wouldn't necessarily have to tie that to like the architectural work, right? Because that would be, we're saying Cubans is what they would build everything around, right?
Yeah, we could. I know, like I was a principal before in a Horicon school district, and they were the Marshmen, but their logo was actually a caricature of a teacher who taught there like for 40 years, kind of standing there like this. And that's all over, but that's all over their school. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that. And Tina did volunteer to be that.
Drawing it, or am I the mascot?
I would be in agreement as well to keep the nickname Cuban.
I think that's the first thing we have to decide, right?
I think that's great. But I don't think we necessarily can't have a mascot of some sort. I mean, you've got Stanford Cardinal that's got a tree. The Philadelphia Flyers have Gritty. I mean, there's all sorts of abstract things. We can always be the Cubans and have a standalone black and gold creature or whatever. I don't think we need to answer what is a Cuban. I mean, if we're the Cuba City Cubans, that's what we are. And our mascot is something else, whatever it is.
And I think of UW Platteville in the same way, you know, swing the axe. Yeah, they're the minors, but yet we could, the axe is part of their logo or
Yeah.
something too, so it's not like we're changing anything in that regard either.
I think we're saying the same thing,
I think we
Dan,
are.
just differently. Like, when I'm saying define a Cuban, like, it's for the Cubans, but we're not saying we're the Cuban trees. It's just Cubans, but it may be a tree.
Yeah, or
Right.
whatever, but I think, I mean, if the point is that the kids wanna have somebody in costume at the games
Right.
or things like that, I don't think we have to change uniforms. We can still use that name, Cubans.
Yep, I agree with
But
that.
if you wanted a mascot of some, I mean, it could be infinite opportunities of, be it a competition from the kids or from staff or whoever.
So you could move forward if the agreement is Cubans. We could move forward with that as our, you know, design and works, and then we could separately have involving the kids in something that's gonna be independent or an individual that's gonna be tied to Cubans, but not necessarily on our uniforms or sweatshirts or
Yeah.
t-shirts type of thing.
Because one of the dangers, we talked about this before, when we were going through this with a company that was guiding us, and they said, you know, if you are the Cuban Cougars or whatever that starts with a Z, after a while, people will just they'll drop that Cubans, and you'll just be the Cougars, so be careful with that. So what I'm hearing though, what I think I'm hearing, is that you guys want to take Route 2. You want to keep the Cuban nickname, and you want to explore a new mascot. And maybe in June, we come back and just say, okay, after looking through the student results and all those different things, here are some different ideas. And maybe then when the kids come back in September, I know that's late for our designers, but maybe we have that first week where they're all presented and kids all vote, and then in September, you guys get to make that final decision. What do you guys think of that timeline?
I guess the only thing I might throw in there is the board wanting whatever this mascot is to be part of the signage, I guess, that the architect, they've got like an interior designer who is gonna craft, you know,
Yeah.
the signs on the school or within the school. So I guess I'm asking the mascot could or couldn't be, I guess, part of that
Or
Cuba
do we
City
just keep
Cuban
the kind
signage.
of, the cursive Cubans?
Stylized.
That's that, and
No.
we have that up there.
Because if it's just that,
No.
No, okay.
I probably wouldn't slow down construction to incorporate some sort of mascot. You know,
Right,
just
especially if we
do Cubans
don't know.
and Cs and stuff like that all around, I think would be fine. Just make sure building is still kind of going forward regardless of this decision.
Yeah, it's really paint,
Yeah.
you know, and that's generally the last thing
And I
that gets
guess
done, but
I've-
they want it done sooner.
I've always viewed our CC as being kind of our
logo.
separate,
Oh,
you know, like our, that's what I've always thought, you know, it's like, that's always been a standout to me, you know, the Cuba City Cubans and the black and gold
That's
CC.
historically been our problem, like Aaron brings up the cursive Cubans, you're bringing up the CC, we have the shield out there, like, we're, like, what is our identity?
Yeah.
well, I mean, I guess, Aaron, is that part of what we also need to determine with regard to the signs and logos and whatever that the interior designer is working on? Or,
And weren't we gonna try to have the signs done before the start of the school year?
Oh, the signs for like
The
that outside
exterior
one.
sign, yes, so if the students aren't if we're not bringing it back to the board until September, and we wouldn't be able to put those new signs up.
What Heather's talking about is a big LED screen
Mhm.
signs that will be at the elementary school and at the middle school, high school. You know, do we want to have signs there?
I would like to move faster than September. on
We can do
this.
that, it's just, it's harder to get student input, you know, now that.
I
they're out of
understand.
school.
I would like to have student input for sure, but I don't think the students are the only people. Like,
Okay.
we have a community
And we do have
of
some
people
student
that, yeah, yeah.
And I would say bring up ideas that we have already generated versus just laying it out as a
Mhm.
blank slate. But say, these are the 5 ideas that we've come up with. You have a week to propose anything new, because otherwise it's not gonna work. So I think we just have to, as a smaller group, come up with some ideas to propose and
Okay.
say, unless you have something else.
When Megan and I were
I was gonna say.
talking with this group, when we talked about this before, there were some that keeping Cubans that we'd have to resurface that, but we might
Yeah,
have a
there were
start to
a
a
few
couple.
design
I didn't think, I
options
don't
out
think
there.
anybody liked any of those,
No.
though. So.
But it's something, like
It's
there
something to
were,
start,
yeah.
I'm-
So in June, we'll have this discussion, and we'll have some new ideas for you guys to consider and approve moving forward with. You know, and say, okay, this is the plan, but then we do have July and we have August as well. Does that sound good? That gives me at least something to move forward
So
Is
who's gonna be doing that?
I guess that,
That was my question.
is there a subcommittee that
Right, that's
the
what-
board could
with. We can do that too.
volunteer to 2 or 3 of you to work on that?
I'd be happy to.
I'd be happy to do that too.
I would like to do it too.
And then hopefully you can have something to present us in June? Awesome.
And we'd be presenting options, correct?
Yeah, just
Bringing different options?
Brainstorming, I mean, I think a night of brainstorming and.
Yeah, it might just be
discussion
paths,
and-
like,
Yeah.
this would be a mascot, or if we wanted to move forward with a logo, like what those would look like.
I'm not gonna be on that committee because I can't even make a good stick figure, so.
I think that'd be a great committee, those 3.
Okay, so whenever the board comes up with a subcommittee, just so you guys know, those are all posted meetings. So since the board came up with that idea, like it's like you're on a new committee until we're done with that, and those will all have to be posted.
Great, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Anything else on the branding?
Nobody for
Public recognition, we have no one. So moving forward to the new business A is the date and time of the June board meeting is the 18th. It's at 6 o'clock?
You want
Is
to
that what
have
we're
that at
gonna-
6?
Since we just had that motion, is that acceptable?
Yes.
Okay, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the June regular board meeting for Wednesday, June 18th at 6 PM.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried.
Item B is approve the addition of curriculum leads and director to the district handbook.
Yeah, with the passing of the referendum, we've secured all the curriculum positions now, but before we do that, we have to add them back to the district handbook, so it just said suspended in there, we'll just change those to what they were. So that's what, later we'll approve who's going to be in those positions, but this is just putting those positions back in the handbook.
Any questions regarding that? Hearing none, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the addition of the curriculum leads and directors to the district handbook as presented.
Is there a second?
I will second. Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried.
Item C is approve the change in lunch and milk fees for 25-26.
Yeah, this recommendation is made by Janet, our food service director, who can't be here tonight. After her DPI's food service audit, basically the milk has to go up. And then what we found is that the lunch fees, when we did a comparison with other school districts, we were well below. In order to maintain that fund balance that Janet is used to, the DPI recommended that we increase those slightly. So those fee changes are in the agenda.
Any questions, board?
And that's 10 cents going up? 10 cents. Okay.
10 cents for the milk?
Yep.
Well, no,
The
it's
food, the
25
food.
for milk, right?
The increase is 25 cents
25
for milk.
25,
Milk,
yeah,
yeah.
10 for.
We've actually been losing money on milk for a very long time. So we don't have a choice on that one, because that was in our food service audit, was that we have to increase our milk prices.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Despite the fact we're not
Because-
losing money on the food service program, we
But
still have to raise it.
They look at individual programs, so that's considered a non-program food. We've been losing money in that, for a long time, so luckily we're making money in other areas to help offset that.
Do we lose at 50 then?
Do we, no.
No.
We are not losing milk. But milk prices haven't been raised in over 13 years.
And then breakfast and lunch would be a 10% increase.
I'll move to approve the change in lunch and milk fees for the 25-26 school year as presented.
Is there a second?
One second.
Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried.
Item D is approve the overnight FFA trip for officers in June.
Yeah, this trip is requested by Ms. Van Scandal for her FFA officers. It'll be a supervised 3-night stay at Jag Lake in late June. Do we have the exact dates on those yet? Okay, but sometime in late June. But anytime we have an overnight trip, we always have to report it.
Where is Jag Lake? Okay, I just never heard
I'm
of
gonna
it.
Google it quick.
See how far we're sending it.
Yeah.
Boulder Junction, Wisconsin. I don't know where that's
Oh.
at either.
Well, that, I was gonna say, that was the FFA camp for a long time. Didn't know if it still was, but.
It's north of Minocqua.
All the way over there.
If there's no questions, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the overnight FFA trip for officers in June 2025 as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried.
Approve the sale, disposal of district resources, including furniture, equipment, and curriculum textbooks. They're sitting out in the hallway everywhere, I guess.
Pretty much all the stuff that we were gonna get rid of right now is in the gym. So what that is, primarily student desks, student tables, teacher desks. There's some chairs, some other non-classroom items, expired athletic uniforms. Mr. Derby did tell me that he has like 4 different sets of old uniforms dating back to when they had them in the 90s. Full-length lockers, $1 per, they come in sets. They were gonna put them in 2 or 4, I think they're mostly in 4. But student desks are $1, student tables $5, teacher desks $5. Those are just, that's similar to what we did in 2017 at the elementary school. We tried to get rid of a lot of these things. Schools generally don't have a real high rate of selling these. At the end of Friday, whatever's there, we've got a salvage company coming in, they're just gonna clear out what isn't sold. So we just wanna offer this as an opportunity for anybody. I know there are some other things that are broken around here, and if there's anything that they wanna get rid of, so I'm gonna tell them, if it's of significant value, let me know and we'll bring that back to the board. They're like, that now would be the time to throw it away. Most of it's expired athletic equipment that is broken. So this is kind of what we talked about last month, but if you guys give the okay, then we'll have that community sale. And a lot of people are excited about having lockers for their garage or their shed or wherever. So looks like hopefully it goes well. And that's tomorrow from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then it's Friday 7 a.m. until noon. And then at noon, the company's going to come in and take everything else out.
This equipment was offered to St. Roseanne or HGSC.
Yep, and they actually came in today and got the things that they wanted.
Any questions regarding that sale? Would someone move?
I'll move to approve the sale of district resources, including furniture, equipment, and curriculum textbooks as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinterman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
F is approve the NIS long-term disability insurance for 25-26.
This is the same plan that we had last year with no increase, so I recommend that we approve this.
If there's no questions, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the renewal of NIS long-term disability as presented.
I'll second.
Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinterman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
G is approve principal life insurance for 25-26.
Yep, this is the same plan as last year with no increase, so I would recommend that we approve this as well.
I will move to approve the renewal of the principal life insurance for 25-26 as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second. Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel.
Yep.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinterman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
H is approved Delta dental insurance rates for 25-26.
Same plan as last year, but there is a 4% increase with dental. We've had a lot of years of 0% increase, so this is, even though it's a 4% this year, it's generally not. So I would recommend that we approve this.
Does that get rebid, or is that?
Yes.
Yeah, the last increase was 2018, so it's been a lot of years
Okay.
with zeros, so.
All right. Thank you. If there's no other questions, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the renewal of Delta dental insurance plan as presented.
Is there a second?
I will second. Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinterman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I is approve the health insurance plan for 25-26. Personnel committee met last Wednesday night, and Dan and Sarah did most of the heavy lifting. So one of you want to speak, or Aaron?
Yeah, I can start, you guys can jump in wherever you want to. We got our bid back for the exact same health insurance from last year as this year with a 79% increase, so that was over $900,000. Just a reminder, our referendum was $900,000, so in order to keep our exact same plan with no changes, we would have to use our entire referendum amount. And we got that from Brent at Tricor. Brent and Joe have been working with us. That was that bid. They did put it out to bid probably 20 other carriers.
Okay. I have better news for you. I also have Greg and Nicole from Medical Associates. They're senior people at Medical Associates, and a lot of them here to answer any questions as well. So why are we here? Well, you know, what happened? The claim experiences from last year are really bad. Okay. When a health insurance company bids something out, they anticipate that there will be about a 90% loss ratio, meaning for every dollar you give them in premiums, they're going to spend 90 cents of it in claims. That leaves the other 10% to pay for administrative costs, their payroll for their staff, online nursing, government regulations, and compliance, which is becoming bigger and bigger. Okay, so we're shooting for 90. You guys are way higher than that. You're way over 140%. Okay, why is that happening? Frequency, things are costing more. Okay, so we started 3 months ago. We started soliciting bids, and you'll see those things in front of you. I'm not going to read every one of them. You'll see that we did a very extensive list. Went to a lot of carriers. You'll see a number of them that declined you, to find them not to quote you at all, or they're simply non-competitive. So last year we moved to a self-funded plan. Self-funded, obviously, with $1 million increase just does not fit your budget right now. So we started looking at some other stuff and some other options, and I'm going to have you switch to the second page now. And that is kind of the, not the back of that, but the second page that says, should say terminology. Can we see that? As we were talking about, we think it's important that as we talk through this, everybody kind of understands the basics of what we're talking about to make sure that you can make a good decision. So I'm not going to read every line, but I'm going to go through some concepts for you. You guys in the past have used something called the Health Reimbursement Arrangement, the HRA. Okay? What an HRA does is the school district buys a health insurance plan, a higher deductible, and And with the example here, we have a $6,000 deductible. Okay, we do that for a couple. It keeps the premiums lower. Okay, it's no different than you changing your car insurance from a $500 to a $2,000 deductible. You're insuring yourself more, premiums go down. So not only does it keep your costs down, but it keeps the employee's costs down. So we buy a $6,000 deductible, we have the employee liability be, let's say, $500. The HRA pays any claims we do that. So that's a health reimbursement. There's an example there as well. Health savings accounts. A lot of people have heard of health savings accounts because they're becoming more and more popular. Governed by the IRS, there has to be a high deductible health plan with that. There's a lot of rules and regulations to those. One of the big things that people don't like about HSAs are you have to pay for the first dollar of everything. Meaning you don't go into your doctor's office for your primary care and pay a $20 copay. If the office visit is $300, you pay $300. If you go to the hometown pharmacy here and the little tube that you get is $450, you don't pay $20 copay. You pay the full $450. You do that until your deductible is fully satisfied. Any questions on those two? Okay. The next two are just different plan options. One was called an HMO. Okay, a lot of people are familiar with HMO. John Deere had them for years. Hormel, everybody has those. It talks a little bit about what they are. They are focused on cost containment, on continuation of care, and they have what's considered a gated or a network. So everybody has to use a network provider. Okay, many of you probably have that. They started in the 70s, grew popular as more and more people started looking at cost control, things like that. All the regional carriers, Quartz, Dean, Medica, Medical Associates use HMOs. Okay, been around for a long time. The last one is a point of service. A point of service is often called a freedom plan. So there's a network you can use, and if you use this network, fine, here's what the cost is going to be. But you can go anywhere you want to. Going somewhere else adds additional expense. The example we use here is you go to your doctor and you use the in-network doctor, it's $20. If you go somewhere else, it's $40. Okay, deductibles change. You may have a $1,000 deductible in-network and a $2,000 deductible out-of-network. Okay, questions on that before I go forward? I just need to grab a drink. I started at 7 this morning talking, so that's for me. Okay, so let's go to, there's a sheet that's blue, it says Medical Associates. It's like this, just one line on it. Okay. So we looked at a lot of options. We looked at HSAs. We went through dozens and dozens of iterations. Changing deductibles, changing how much the premiums pay. When the referendum did pass, we worked with Aaron, we worked with Heather, and we said, where do we need to be? What can we fit in the budget? And they said, here's the number we need to be. So we worked, they worked, we came together. This is the plan that fits your budget. It is not without change, it's not without complications, it's not without change and some pain to the staff. We'll talk about that. Okay. So there's also a page right behind it. And this is kind of, these are all fully insured, meaning you're going to pay the premiums, there's no additional cost. These are all with Medical Associates. You had Medical Associates 2 years ago, so your staff is familiar with them. Okay. The two plans on this are both HSAs, health savings accounts. Okay. We like health savings accounts. The personnel like the HSA accounts. The problem that we have with the HSA is a couple things. One, teachers are gone right now, and this plan starts July 1st. There's a lot of education. Okay. We don't want this to be get off the wrong foot. Additionally, most HSA plans run on a calendar year, meaning they reset January 1st, run for the calendar year. Your plan starts July 1st. So there's some obstacles to overcome that. So for that reason, even though they're all within a percentage point, we think there's plenty of disruption already going on, because we're going to talk about that next. But doing this would not go over well. Okay, I've done this a long time and making changes. Disruption is painful. Okay, nobody likes to do this. We don't like to deliver bad news. They don't like to deliver bad news. You don't like to deliver bad news. But complicating things even worse would not go over well. So, questions on that? On the back of the terminology sheet, we wanted to highlight, okay, what does this mean to the staff? Okay? All right, everybody on that page, everybody through that? Okay. So I'm not gonna read those to you, but I'll just kind of go through what it is. The current amount is what people are paying right now in June. The proposed amount, now that's the deductible, $500. The proposed is what the deductible will be starting July 1st with this plan. Okay? Current option 1 Dean HMO premium, monthly premium, okay? The employees at this point had an option. They could say, I'm gonna go to the Dean HMO, or I'm gonna go to the Alliance point of service and go anywhere they want to, okay? So there's two different prices, and that's why those are outlined. So that is what the employee is paying, they're paying 12% of the total. So for example, the single employee right now pays $78.73. Everybody see that, we're all tracking? The point of service is $85.56, and the 25-26 has the employee paying 15%, not 12%. And you'll see the dollar amounts there. Okay, so obviously an increase in deductible and an increase in premiums. Okay, that's not fun for anybody. Prescription drug costs below. The current plan you have was you paid, it's kind of a hybrid. You paid all the costs for it, and once your deductible is satisfied, you're done paying. You didn't pay anything else for that. The proposed plan is going to go back to what you had 2 years ago, the same exact plan. $0 for tier 1 generics, 25 for tier 2, 100 for tier 3, and 20% up to 250 for tier 4. So again, this is the same plan you had 2 years ago, so they'll be a little familiar with that. And then just the what is the medical max out of pocket? So again, you had $500 at $1,000. It's going to be going to $1,500 for single, $3,000 for family, and then the prescription drug copays. So that was a lot to throw at you. So what questions do you have?
I guess I have one.
I'm sorry, what?
I have one. Is our staff aware if there's some serious, significant changes coming for insurance?
No, we let them know that came back with 79% increase, and we were gonna have new insurance.
Okay.
So that was in our monthly memo.
Okay.
And then we had, we talked about it at our personnel meeting, we talked about insurance.
Aaron, the budgeted amount for healthcare for 25-26 is 15% higher.
50%, which is about roughly $200,000.
So it was in the budget increase $200,000, which still leaves with this expense.
And this proposed, the proposal is about 9,000 over what was budgeted, so it's close.
It's only for 1 year?
1 year.
Or-
1 year. Yeah.
What you're finding is that people are generally not giving you the second year
Yeah,
not to exceed
yeah.
this anymore.
Yeah. The further you get away from, one, your claim experience is bad, so nobody's gonna say, we're gonna take a 2-year risk on this. So yeah, it's a 1-year contract. So. But you'll see, and I mean, we went through this last year as well. You went self-funded and it was about $400,000 less than the other offer you had. And so back here where we are now, not a lot's changed. But it's not like we have 13 people that are saying, yeah, we want to bid on this. So, again, a year from now, things could be considerably different.
Some of the plans that were presented were, this one is like 1.5 million for health insurance cost. Some of them were 2.4, 2.3 million.
I just want to make a point to our staff though, because this is still some of the lowest amounts out of pocket for staff that I would love to pay this amount out of pocket, so I feel like our staff also has to recognize that they're getting a huge benefit by only having to pay the amount that's shown here, so I do want to make that known too, because that's a huge benefit. for the staff, so I think taking that into consideration.
But we understand also that, I think that's where we were coming from, is it is gonna be an increase.
Yeah.
It's gonna be more expensive to each employee.
Yeah, when we talked about, that's the reason we wanted to present this in a very clear format, so there was no, everybody can see right on it, financially, here's the impact it's gonna have to the staff. So, we don't, anytime we change carriers, we, don't, it's nothing we do lightly. But in this situation, financially, there were no other options, so.
Yeah, I was disappointed at the number of non-bidders or who bid and.
Yeah, just the whole industry, United Healthcare, who is the biggest, and they certainly run a lot hotter than most. They just changed their numbers. I think their stock got hit 22%. They're saying, we can't do what we said we were gonna do anymore. So, cost of prescription drugs continue to go up, cost of medicine, surgeries, everything continues to go up, so, there may be more pain down the road.
You said there's gonna be some disruptions, are you referring to they need to change
Absolutely.
positions?
Yeah,
and-
so, yeah, that's a great point, let's talk about this. We talked about HMOs and point of services. The offer that we have for Medical Associates here is an HMO, so you are going to use the Medical Associates provider network, okay? So, they have a great network, Dubuque-based, Cuba City-based, Platteville, so they have local services here. There's still services for emergency care anywhere, you can go anywhere for ER. And as well, if there's something that they can't do, it's a cancer, and you need to go to Carbone Cancer Center in UW, they're gonna refer you there. If you're saying, I have carpal tunnel, they have physicians that can do carpal tunnel, you're gonna be required to use their procedures there. We're gonna talk about transition of care, we'll talk about that stuff. So if somebody is in the middle of a process right now, they're 8.5 months pregnant, we don't wanna change that. But those are done on a one-off situation. The biggest change is gonna be that Southwest Health is not in that way. Okay, so that's gonna be the biggest change. Okay, so when we were with Medical Associates a couple years ago, we had the option of both an HMO and a point of service, and the people could choose what they did. The problem is the way the government does stuff, if you are on a plan and you go to a non-network provider, it became a real mess. It wasn't anything Medical Associates did, it's just the way the government says, here's how you have to handle it. So then people were getting bills, they were getting frustrated, they were going to Heather was going to Aaron was coming to me, we were going to Greg, and we got figured out, but it's just not clean and it's expensive. So yeah, that is the network disruption of the country. Yeah.
And we'll likely set up 2 different dates, kind of in June, where staff can come in, so we can make the transition as easy as we can.
And the medical associates, they also will have dependent care, so if you, for
Yep.
families that have college students or dependents that do not live in this area that can go to medical associates, just like the transition of care document, there's a form that staff members would fill out if they have someone who's maybe going to college in Arizona. You fill that out, it goes back to medical associates, it doesn't come back
Correct.
to Ashley or myself, it goes to medical associates.
So two documents for that, transition of care, we've already provided a copy of that, we talked about that. And the other is just, again, for any dependent, whether they're going to school or not, if they're under the age of 26, they're on your health insurance plan, and they are living somewhere else, they can be married, living somewhere else, doesn't make a difference. There's a process in place so that they can stay on your insurance, and that person can be covered, and we'll find providers in that area, so they don't have to come back here.
But you dictate at that point which ones they can go to?
There's
So
a
you find
network, yeah.
network?
Yeah, it's a national network, it's a big network, so. It's obviously not ideal, getting $1 million is not, great news. We work within the budget, we work with the numbers we had, we found a carrier who's willing to partner with you, and Medical Associates wants to be a long-term partner. They're a good agency, they're a good company, we've worked with them for a long time. So, we appreciate them stepping up, because that was the only offer we had. So, we appreciate that, but we'll do all we can. I know there's gonna be people that aren't happy about this. I lived through this with Act 10, and so, but these are the cards that you guys were dealt when the referendum didn't pass, so. You didn't ask for that, we joined up on the school board, so. So, questions?
Brian
I work with Medical Associates HMO, even though I've been happy with the provider. I'm sure a lot of people.
Yeah. Health insurance is very emotional, and sometimes it's shoving it forward. My parents always went to Medical Associates, so that's where I've always gone. Some people are like, I've never gone there, they said something. But as Julie mentioned, you know, the premiums are still very affordable for what, and the deductibles are still considerably lower than what we see in a lot of places. So,
And then this is gonna be good to have an opportunity for staff to, and ask questions for clarity, you know, and
Time to
just
change
remind
insurance,
these,
yeah.
and it's just, yeah.
Yep. So the first thing that's gonna hit is this formulary, and that's people are gonna start filling prescriptions. Medical Associates have been really good work on it, to say, hey, that's not in our formulary, we're gonna fill that to make sure that we can work through the process. So,
We've had to change insurance every year.
well, we were
WA
WA Trust for a number of years, and then, yeah,
But since then,
yeah, you know, and I've been doing this a long time. It used to be where somebody get with, you know, a carrier and then stay with them for 6 or 7 years, and that just doesn't happen anymore for a number of reasons. And it feels like it's more like Dish Network and DirecTV, and that's that you're switching every 2 years to find the best deal and to find what fits within your budget, whether it's your personal one or, you know, you guys are at school, but we work with municipalities and private business all over, and everybody's in the same situation. So, yeah.
Is this one of the first times that hasn't been like a choice, or that they haven't been able to access Southwest Health? I mean, I don't know much about what's the history of the insurance here.
Yeah, I mean, WA Trust, you know, that they had 80% of the school districts in the state, and that went bankrupt for the most part because they couldn't afford it. And then you went to courts, and that gave some access to both. And then courts lost access to Medical Associates. But yeah, it's gonna be a change for your staff. And we looked at some of the numbers, and you have a good percentage of your staff that has used Medical Associates and continues to, but you have some that, again, has used Southwest Health.
So the committee that met last week to go over this, are they recommending the fully insured, the traditional plan, the one with the 1 on the page?
Yes, that's the one.
The
And
traditional,
the
on my
reason we're-
document, that was option,
and the-
Medical Associates, HMO option D.
Yep, yep.
And the
That
reason we're
doesn't
not
say-
considering the other, the HSA plans, is because of that inconvenience of the calendar start year and we would be
Yeah,
hit.
a couple things. Everybody to an HSA would have to start an HSA account, so they have to go to the bank and start an HSA account before the plan starts, so again, in the next couple of weeks.
And that's not something you do with,
No, everybody can do their own bank, and then if they wanna put money out, then they go to Heather, and Heather says, I'm gonna put $50 extra in that, so there's a payroll. But, just the whole idea of, again, somebody going in, and there's, within those proposals, we looked at different things. We looked at saying, hey, if we did this, we could give every employee $1,000 to help pay for those bills. The question is, when do we do that? How are we gonna fund that? How often are we gonna fund that? If somebody's here, we give them $1,000 in July and they leave because they're through the school year, and they leave in September, the next person, we have to give them $1,000, how that's gonna work. So there's other things to do. So we already have on the calendar in January, a meeting to sit down and say, let's talk about HSAs, how are they gonna work, how's it gonna work through admin? So,
We brought that up in committee.
yeah.
okay.
To start that process after the first of the year, so we could at least, if we have those options
Yeah.
next year, they can be set up.
And I only question this because I'm on an HSA plan right now, and I love it because I'm 2 years in, and now I've built enough up that it pays everything for me ahead, you know, like I don't have to worry about that,
Yeah.
so. And I see that those options are less costly for the
Yeah.
district.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason I'm bringing this up.
So they wanted us to have a longer runway, so we're like, well, let's start next January and.
But I think you wanna guarantee that we can stick with Medical Associates for,
But if you have an HSA
Hopefully.
account and we switch plans, you can still
You
use
can
the
still
HSA
transfer it,
account.
yeah.
Yeah, the HSA account is something you own. And what we wanna do is we wanna work to make sure that we can do, what we don't wanna do is have somebody start a deductible over in July right now,
Yeah.
start again in January, and then do it, have to move it, and all of a sudden somebody's like, you know, through no fault of their own, they're on a prescription drug. Or we go to this HSA plan, and July 1st, they go in and fill it, and it's $2,000, and they're like, I don't have $2,000. If it's at the hospital, you say, hey, I'm gonna make payments. If it's at the pharmacy, they say, give me your credit card. Now you got credit card payments. So we just think that it's probably the best to make sure that we have everything. We're in front of teachers well in advance,
Yeah.
explaining the process. You guys have a flex spending account right now. So people put money in that for dependent care and for medical expense. You can't have a flex spending account and an HSA. So until we empty one, so if people have money they're planning on rolling that over because they're gonna do dental work in July, now they can't do an HSA. So we want to get ahead of it so that we can educate everybody to make sure that this process is as smooth as possible. But you're right, a lot of people, once they get into an HSA, like them. Once they understand them, they can roll money into it, it works like that. But 2 weeks is suicide. It will not work. It will not work. So, but I'm glad that you like HSAs. And it's gonna be where, down the road, it's gonna be, a majority of people are gonna have them.
I think Sarah and Dan, it was unanimous that this was the plan that was chosen. So I left before it was over, to go to eighth grade graduation.
It was really the only option.
But I appreciate that you're forward thinking with this one. And the conversations.
Other questions for?
So you want medical associates a 3-year rate lock, right? Is that what we're asking?
Yeah, please.
Yes.
Please,
Greg, in writing.
Can you do that for us?
So, I will say, medical associates they're fair, you know, again, if claims next year are 140% of what the money you're spending, it's not gonna be pretty. So hopefully things change, so.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate it, yeah.
Thank you both for coming.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, if there's no other questions, we have a motion. I guess Plan D is what it says in the motion, you can, it's the traditional plan is the same. Yep, you can change it to traditional plan if you feel more comfortable with that, but the option D was what was presented, they had A through, J or something that night for us to look at.
Triple Z at one point, but yeah, we cured it down a little bit, so.
Okay.
I would move to approve the Medical Associates HMO insurance plan, option D, or traditional plan as presented.
Is there
I
a
will
second?
second.
Schweikert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right.
Thank you for your business.
Thank you,
We'll be in
folks,
touch.
for coming.
Thank you.
Next one is our property insurance. About a 4% increase. If you remember the last couple of years, it was double-digit increases for all these different things. So a 4% increase is welcomed at this point. So I would recommend that we approve the Tricor property insurance.
I did think of a question with the building project going on. How does the property insurance?
It'll change once we have ownership of that new parts of the building, that will go up. And primarily, if we look at that, where that is, the property, I mean, that's gonna go up, just because we have more square footage.
So it covers it in front of the construction company?
Yeah.
And that's just the new construction. This current hallway just increases.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, would someone move, please?
I'll move to approve the Tricor property insurance for 25-26 as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Schweikert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried.
And we're on to personnel. A is approve the hiring of second shift custodian Mike Vale beginning June 1st.
Yep, we had a few high-quality applicants this time around that were all looking for second shift work, so that was good. And so we all recommend that we approve Mike and David here next.
If there's no questions, would someone move, please?
I will move to approve the hiring of second shift custodian Mike Vale as presented.
I'll second.
Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinterman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried.
B is approve the hiring of second shift custodian David Hayes beginning May 14th.
Yeah, we actually started this week, so, same as Mike, we had some applicants and, did a good job, and he's had some experience in WP in the same position, so we recommend this gets approved.
Are there any questions? If none, would someone move, please?
I'll move to approve the hiring of second shift custodian David Hayes as presented.
Is there a second?
I will second. Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinterman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried.
And then item C is to approve the stipend for returning staff for 23-24 to 24-25.
Okay, so with all the poor insurance news, we do have some good news here, and we want to try to tie those together to offset. So, the TID closure check that we received from the city, which we were planning on getting $0 for, actually turned out to be $120,230. It's a one-time payment. And so what we looked at is, first thing is, we were not expecting this money, and we were not able to give staff a raise this year. Let's come up with some plans for you guys to look at to use a bulk of this money in one-time stipends to our staff. We didn't get a raise at all this year. So in the past, when we've done stipends for different things, we've done it different ways. So options 1 through 7 here. These represent staff members in the same job classification who worked last year and this year also. So those new staff who changed classifications are not factored into this. So these are people that had the same job last year and this year because we had a 0% pay raise. So just looking at those amounts, we had different options to see what those look like. So option 1, we had this would be teachers and admin, a bonus or a stipend of $1,000 and support staff of $800. That would be a total of $91,000. And then we just played with the numbers here to see what this looked like. We looked at teachers and admin at $1,000 or support staff at $750, and that would be about $89,000, or at $900 and $700, and that would be $81,000. We wanted to give you guys some range there. Then we looked at, because in the past, we've used percentage of salary for pay raises. So we said, well, what would it look like if we just gave everybody a 1% salary raise, or not a raise because it would be a stipend. So at 1%, it would be about $50,000, and then at 1.5%, it'd be about $75,000. At 2%, close to $100,000, and 2.5% would be $124,000, almost $125,000. So we just wanted to give you the look of what that would be. And then we had the insurance meeting, and at that meeting we're like, oh, maybe we should tie this to people who are getting have a single plan and who have a family plan. So let's look at that. What if we gave so all these options are people who took family insurance this year and we believe are returning next year. So options 8, 9, and 10 are say, well, what if we paid 50%, 75%, or 100% of that increased deductible change? So those would result in $64,000, $96,000, and $129,000. So what that would mean is like a single person who was paying a $500 deductible, now it's going to be $1,500. They would get a $1,000 stipend, and that covers the insurance deductible change for next year. With family, they would get a $2,000 because that's going to be the increase in their deductible. So if we wanted to pay 100% of that deductible increase, and that would be $129,000. So that's something to look at. And then the Budget and Finance Committee, when we looked at that, they said, well, why don't you come up with something that they didn't like that the people that take in lieu of insurance don't get anything here.
Or who don't.
Or who are part-time.
Who don't qualify.
Who don't qualify for
Because of
those.
pregnant.
They're like, can you come up with something that everybody gets a little something? So then we looked at options 11 through 15 with the percentages over here ranging from 50% to 80% within here. So what that means is, this would be for somebody who has a single plan we would give them a $500 check, or a family $1,000, and if you were part-time or it took them in lieu of insurance, you get $250. So everybody gets something. So that goes all the way up to 80%, which is still under the 120,000. And so that would be at 80% of the deductible increase for 800 single, 1,600 for family, and then 500 for in lieu of insurance or part-time. So that's kind of the four groupings that we came up with as ideas. And remember this about spending. So when you get a $120,000 check, if we want to have that have legs, and this is how primary reimbursement works, if we spend, let's say we spend all 120,000 of it this year, we get aided, our primary aid amount is about 65%, so almost 2/3. So if we spent all 120,000, that 120,000 actually becomes 200,000, because the state is going to aid us about 80,000 next year, more than we would have gotten. So if we spend all that, it pretty much takes, that covers the cost of almost a teacher next year. And that was unexpected, because all this happened after the referendum. So the hard part about this is, because Joe is in our Budget and Finance Committee, and he's like, as a business owner, that does not make sense to me, that if you spend 120,000, next year you get more money from the state, but that is how primary aid gets reimbursed. So, because we talked about how much of that should go into fund balance, but if we get it in fund balance, it's a one-time sum that doesn't gain us anything that next year. But with the insurance rate and different things, and adding a 4K and 5K classroom teacher, because enrollment went up, it makes sense that we're looking at, okay, well, where's our fund balance going to be as well? So that's a valid concern the Budget and Finance Committee had as well.
Was there a recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee?
We did not see these.
They asked us to come up with these.
When we left the meeting, I think we were all in agreement, we'd like to see something else, which would be this page.
Yep.
That would share, everybody would have some sort of share.
Was there a winner out of the other options?
Personally, to me, I like option 15.
I like that one when I just heard of it. Maybe if the goal was to give everybody something, because we didn't give them anything.
Which, for those who cannot probably see, in the back, option 15.
Can you see that? That's about as big as I think I can make it.
It's about 800 for an individual, 1,600 for someone taking a family insurance, and then 500 for somebody who is in lieu of or part-time would not qualify. And that, again, from Budget and Finance, our discussion was making sure everybody got something in recognition of the work that was put in this year, and our inability to give raises, at least a one-time stipend, acknowledged some of those efforts.
So this is based on what they took last year, right? So it's not considering changes for anybody that went from a single and now this year they're planning to do family? Is that correct?
Correct, it's
It's
based
this year,
off of
right?
what they have right now. Because the checks, we need to pay this out
In this fiscal year.
in this fiscal year.
If we want to get reimbursed for it, it has to
If
be
we wanna
spent
get
by
reimbursed
July-
for next
by
year,
June
yes.
30th.
I guess the part I struggle with option 15 is that not everyone is getting an equal percentage. And I actually don't like any of those options with the health insurance because I feel like it's not equalized for the teachers. So you're getting penalized if you don't take an insurance. And so I would honestly, I would go with option 6.5 and honor at 2.2% or 2.25% of salary, which comes to $112,010.
Do we have-
For that reason.
We don't have,
It's
she.
not on there, I just
she-
calculated,
she's
I
the
calculated that
master.
because
Got it. I was gonna
it's
say,
the
I have the wrong
120
document
and
number. Got it.
that, if it's an equal percentage rate
It's
based
an
on
E.
everyone, for who's here, that's,
So just know that options 1 through 7, there will be individuals that are currently on staff that will not get an increase.
because of why?
Because per how I was asked to run numbers, staff members who are in a different job classification, or if they were new to the district. So, let's just say you, in a normal school year, you start at the school district and you're given a contract for $48,000, and the board approves an increase, whatever that increase may be, your contract is still $48,000.
But it's
So
based
we-
on last year, right? I mean, everything is
So-
based on last year.
But the reason why I'm saying that is so that same methodology was applied for options 1 through 7. Because in any other given year, when we give staff increases, if you're new to the district, you don't get an increase in that first year. So there are individuals,
A handful maybe.
a handful. I don't have that number. I could, if you give me a minute, I could tell you who's not, not who, I could tell you the number. But there are individuals who would not be getting.
And if you ran the numbers and it was 112, that's still less than 120. So if you say, no, we want it for everybody who is employed this year, that we know is going to be employed next year, it would be a couple $1,000s probably. So
Wow.
if you guys would.
We have to pay benefits,
Yeah.
so.
So Heather, when you say new to district, you mean they're signing a contract for 25, 26?
No,
or
so
24,
I just was
25?
using the example, like in any other school year where we don't have financial issues, when, in the past, when we've given, let's say Cameo is a new teacher, and she starts in this school year,
Yeah.
and there's no financial situations, issues whatsoever. She signs a contract, she signs on saying, I agree to making $48,000. A month or two goes by, and the board approves a 2% increase. She does not get a 2% increase. She stays at $48,000 for the 25-26 school year and does not get an increase until the following school year. So that's true for all job classifications. Once you sign that contract, you sign on, and you don't get an increase that the board approves for everybody else.
So we can't say like,
You-
anyone who's
you can-
employed on May first
can,
of this
You
The numbers
year.
are
can,
just
I'm just
changed.
letting you know that there are individuals who are not getting an increase in options 1 through 7, just so you know. There are people who are, a bonus is not calculated in here. I just
But
want
yes, you guys can say.
You guys can say
you
that, but
no, we want that for-
I don't want you to think like, oh, it says option 6 is $100,000.
Sure,
It's
okay.
going to be more than $100,000.
Might be 106.
So Cameo would get something.
If we do a
2%
6
based on
point, if we
48,000.
do.
Yeah, but wait, somebody else-
Sorry to call you out. No, I just was using Cameo.
It's just
as
not
an example.
included in this number, right?
Yes, so I just want
okay.
everyone to understand that if you're saying we're just going to be spending more money than what's listed here, again, you guys are the board, I just want to make sure you understand it's going to be more than $100,000, whatever's listed here.
And going through the finance committee, which happened after the personnel committee when the insurance was first exposed to us, then we went to the finance committee. I happened to sit on both, so I sat through all of it. Our more concern was after knowing the insurance was going up by so much, we talked about doing equal raises to everyone, and it's not just teachers, it's all staff. Our feeling was we would prefer to pay more to cover that increase in insurance costs than as a one-time stipend equally across the board. So we did have the discussion, and that was our recommendation.
I would say I'm probably leaning more towards the option 12. So that would not be spending all of it, putting about, what would that be, 40,000 or something like that into our fund balance. Just to make sure that stays at that 22 in case we get more expenses down the road, so we don't have to cut things right away. I feel like we should reward staff or help staff out on the health side of it too. And I know Aaron said that if we did, so it's hard for me to grasp a whole, spend $1, get 65 cents back, right? But if we were to spend all of it, we would come back with 78,000 next year. But if we didn't, and we did like option 12, for example, we would have 85,000 the next year. We would still do right, that we would do 65% of our 85,000 and still have 40 in the bank. Am I thinking about that right or no?
Yeah, and then, but then each year that gets less, you know, we get reimbursed, so it does have legs, it kinda goes on more than just 1 year too.
But then we could spend the 85 the next year, and like the next
Yep.
year, and stuff like that though, right? Okay.
Yep.
I guess I'm torn, I really am, because I get 100% get the insurance piece, and this is gonna be a hard hit. And I also look at it as it our place to dictate how they should spend their money, you know what I mean? So is it, if it is the 2% or 2.5%, is it then up to them to decide if they wanna apply that to their insurance, versus the board making that? I don't know, I'm really torn.
And that's a good point, because they're just getting a check. They're gonna be able to use it, whatever it is, they get to use it however they want to.
I'm just torn on
Yep.
both
Well, and I
sides.
think some people don't ever meet their deductible, so I guess I struggle with that too, because I think there's families that need that money elsewhere. And having had conversations with some of our staff, as a staff member a couple of years ago, a lot of it was, we want equality across the board for every teacher. And maybe they have a different opinion now, but that's what was a sounding resolution a couple of years ago.
Usually I can go one side, I'm really torn.
This is why I thought this part might be a little longer in the meeting, because
I mean, a part of me really leans towards, it really should be up to them to individually decide how
Well,
they
it
want
is,
it.
it's a check to them.
Oh, either way, okay.
Either way,
Oh,
either way,
I
it's a
see what
check-
you're
it's a
saying.
check to them.
Okay. So the school district's not absorbing that?
No, we're
we're just
just
talking about how to
Oh.
distribute it.
How to
Gotcha.
distribute it.
Yeah,
They
they're just
would-
gonna
they
get
would-
a check made out to them.
They would spend it
How
any
they
way they
want
want.
it. Okay, so this is not
It was
saying
the
it has
feeling
to.
of the finance committee that we would break it down more to the people that had higher cost insurance, because
Gotcha.
the insurance had increased so much.
Gotcha, that makes sense, okay.
And then Julie's point is, well, we didn't give anybody a raise, so
Yeah.
her lens is, let's put at 2% of that. Neither's wrong, you guys just have to figure out on one thing that is going to get 4 of the 7 of you to vote and approve.
Yep, and then we have the third option of not spending it all and putting some in fund balance, so.
And it's important to make a decision tonight because we need this done by July
Yeah,
1st.
please don't table this.
This really can't be tabled to June,
Because of when payrolls.
in order to get it paid out by the end of this fiscal year, so. I'm sorry to put you in that small box,
Nope,
but
that's-
we're gonna have to make a decision.
Because the only way for that would have to be a special meeting in like
We'd
a
have,
week or
to do a
something,
special board meeting, yeah.
if we don't make a decision today.
Correct, correct.
Is there an option that 4 people can agree with?
I think we're only gonna know that probably by making motions and voting.
I'm open for a motion. If it doesn't get a second.
Do you wanna just kinda go around and say which option people are leaning towards? That might work.
I like 6.
With everyone and not just.
Yes, with everyone.
So that's the 60 sort of thing.
2% or at the
2%,
2%.
then if
2%
there's
for
additional,
everyone.
then you would still be covered under the 120.
Angie?
I could really go with 6 or 7. I like the idea of having some stuff for the fund balance and some, you know, so I would probably lean more towards 6, but I
Let
could
me
go
be
with
clear,
6.
I'm okay with 7 too, I wanna spend it all.
Yeah.
So if 6 is gonna get us to the 120, fine, but if 7, if we can,
Make it happen?
but that would not be including everyone, and so I guess I would lean
7 would
towards 6.
be more than
Than what we have, right?
$124,000.
I'm gonna go back to 6.
But we could look at, I mean, not
That,
that.
nu- the
Julie did
number
the
I
numbers
threw out,
up.
I did a 2.25%
say.
was $112,000, so that's, but I don't know what your number is if you
With the
include
people that
everyone.
weren't included in that, do you think there's 8,000 leeway there? While you guys are talking.
How about
why don't
they
we-
talk and I'll do some.
So we'll call that 6.5,
I'll do some
option
calculations.
6.5.
So I sit on the Budget and Finance Committee, and we did go back and forth on this quite a bit. And I think part of it was getting the health insurance information was coloring some of our conversations. Hearing the conversation tonight, knowing that the equity piece and just saying it's two 1% across the board for everybody, and they're allowed to determine what to do with those funds as they wish. I think in either way, the most important thing to me is that this excess money goes back to the staff. So I would also lean towards option 6 after hearing tonight's discussion.
If it wasn't for the fact we hadn't given them, or if we had given a raise, I would have been in favor of the insurance increase. So I would go with 6 or a version of 6 as well.
I still like 15.
I would go with option 6.
I'd probably still be in that 12, 13 range probably.
And 13, do they give something to everybody?
Yes, so if you had a
Because
single,
they're giving part-time.
and that would be 304.
Okay, but, so what you are asking me to do right now is to give some 2.25% to everybody, right? I just wanna make sure.
Versus a 2%, like where
Okay.
does 2% take us?
And what about the people who we know aren't coming back?
It's like we had a teacher who already has resigned, she's moved out of her classroom, she's not coming back next year.
Am I again, I just wanna make sure I have accurate numbers.
Our
I would not.
discussion in finance was not to include anybody who was not coming.
Okay, so I just wanna, okay, thank you for the head nods.
So we'll give Heather a moment here to do the math.
Do we want to move on to the next agenda item and then come back? Because I think there's just one more.
We can do that, if that's all right, Board. D is approve the curriculum team and curriculum director.
Yep, we were able to come up with somebody for every curriculum position down here. And curriculum director, Ellie Glennon, accepted that position. And we were able to find everybody in all these positions that we had previously. So that's everybody who was a lot of the same, but there are some changes.
Any questions, Board, with regard to that list of leads? If there's none, would someone move to approve?
Are you showing like the old one and?
This is the old one, yep, so this is
Okay.
2023-24, and then this would be 25-26. Yep, so this is last year.
Was the curriculum director offered full to the full staff?
I think that was sent out in the email from the schools. Yep. We did have a couple people express interest, and then when we shared kind of their job duties and responsibilities, then some people didn't want to anymore.
I will move to approve the hiring of the curriculum team and curriculum director as presented.
Is there a second?
I will second. Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried.
Do you want to go through committee reports
We
while
can,
she's finding
we
them?
can do that. Budget and finance, you just met, I don't think there's anything else, is there?
No, we talked a lot about personnel and budget and finance stuff tonight.
Okay. Building and grounds,
We'll have a meeting in early June, I think we're looking at some dates here.
okay, is there any questions, Board, on building and grounds items? Personnel, we just met on May 7th, and it was the insurance. Policy, won't be till August or September. Tech and transportation will be in July. Foundation will meet in August. Is there any changes or additions to those? And CISA rep, basically I was on a bus trying to listen to the virtual meeting. So they have kind of their reorganization as well. Mike Humke, who was the Dodgeville School Board president, was also the head of the CISA 3, he got voted out of office in Dottieville, so they elected a new president and new staff, and they're kind of just wrapped up everything at CISA 3 for the year as well. So Jamie Nutter met basically his $1 million goal of having $1 million in the bank at one point in time. Quite a feat considering that when he took over CISA 3, they were in the red. So, yes, Heather.
Giving everyone a 2.25 increase based off of their salary. For every individual that's coming back next year, the total cost would be $127,688.60. And that's salary and benefit costs.
So what would, can you change that to 2%, or is that not a quick?
Can we find the percentage that we come to $120,000, and if it's 2.18 or 2 point whatever it is, that's okay, it's just spend $120,000,
Like,
but.
you're welcome.
So.
You don't have just a quick change the percentage in there? No?
No, because I have lots of different things going on.
I think you guys could, if you want us
Can't-
to
can't
say,
we just
get the
approve it?
number closest to that without going over based on a percent, I think we can do
Correct.
that, but like,
Correct.
that's gonna take her some time.
I'm not asking you to do it now, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, can we
I
just
would
say it
agree.
that way and then you figure out
Yes.
whatever that is?
Should be able to just make a motion
Yep.
with that total
Yep.
dollar figure in.
Not to exceed.
Not to,
That
yeah, not to
that
exceed,
includes everyone.
not to exceed 120.
Includes everyone that's coming back next year, please just make sure that's in the motion, if that's what you so choose. And then if you tell me do not go over, I will run the numbers, including benefits, and not go over. And then once we have that, I'll share it with Aaron and he can send it to the board with the exact percentage increase.
If that's something that somebody wants to make a motion on.
Here's a language suggestion, based on what I'm hearing you. Move to approve a version of option 6, not to exceed $120,230 to staff returning in 25, 26.
What was that exact time?
I know that's a mouthful, but.
Does somebody want
Yep.
I'll read it.
to make that motion or a different one?
I'll make that motion but I wanna add that who was employed on May 1st.
Got it.
So people who were employed on May 1st, who are intending to come back next year. Because I don't want, like, we just hired someone, so I want a date where
Got
they
it.
were employed.
I will second.
Any questions before a vote? Go ahead, Nikki.
Sorry, I'm
Yep.
getting my notes
That's
up.
fine.
All right, Schweigert,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Alrighty, thank you very much.
I move to adjourn.
I will second, all in favor?
And then Megan, Joe, and Gary, Heather needs a signature.
Yes, thank you.